is an i7-4790k Devil's Canyon processor, still good in 2020. Well, I bought this system about 3 months after it came out in 2014. Cost £2,500, state-of-the-art system at the time. And should you upgrade or should you buy a 4790k old PC if you got the option? My honest view is this 4-core 8-thread processor is still good in 2020. I've had it overclocked for many years. Well, ASUS says 12% overclocking, but more like 4.5%. I don't know how they get 12%. It's got a base clock turbo of 44 times 100 base clock. It's got a multiplier, so it's 44 times base clock 100, which gives you 4400 as the default. Now I've had it overclocked, just an air cooler, nothing fancy, to 4600 for years without problems. I have managed to get it to run at 4700, but it's not stable. Probably crash after 3 hours. But 4600 is stable. Here it's maxing out because it's rendering. And look, temperature, nothing. Temperature's nothing. Of course, originally it was a Windows 7 system, which I upgraded for free to Windows 10. That was quite recent actually. So I liked Windows 7, but they're ending support soon. So I made the leap to Windows 10 reluctantly. It was free after all. There are some stuff I don't like about Windows 10. What happened to the recent, most recent places and files and folders, and the workaround doesn't work? What about benchmark? Cinebench 20 on a clean boot and exiting anything that started with the boot, you can get 2150. That's a decent score. Obviously after some use and it's been on for a while, then it drops to around 1950 to 2150. So that's what its performance in terms of benchmarking, but in everyday use it feels absolutely fine. Obviously for doing something like this, encoding, having a faster processor will boost it, though the GPU I don't need to upgrade either. It's a GTX 970 that is, which I bought, which came out just when I bought it. That just about came out in the month I bought it, in September 2014. Originally the system had, well, it's got the original SSD in it. The main thing I've upgraded is I've plopped in a load of drives. I've got a Samsung Evo as my D drive, 1 terabyte, sorry. And this is the original Intel drive, which obviously runs a lot slower. And I've also got various other drives, mostly Western Digital, black and blues. It's a 32GB RAM original. 32GB RAM. Here's memory there. So the CPU is the same, motherboard same, ASUS motherboard, 797 Deluxe something. Memory same, 32GB, DDR3, remember it's 2014. And the original system drive, 256GB, but then I've added a load. It's got altogether around 20 terabytes of storage, spread out across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drive. I don't know what disk 10 is. No, that'd be something else. So if you can get a second-hand machine, 4790k cheap, then go for it. If you're gonna run Windows, even some games, if you've got a decent GPU like a 970, you can get a pretty good system for a low price. And like I say, it's well over 5 years old and it's working perfectly fine. It cost £2,500 when I bought it. I can't imagine what its value would be now second hand. Probably, well, excluding the hard drives, because all those hard drives are worth some, maybe £100 each roughly. So if you take out most of the hard drives, just leave a couple in, I'm guessing it would be £700, £600, something like that, second hand. Is that accurate? It's got a good case, it's reliable, runs silent. And look how good the Devil's Canyon is. Look, max turbo temperature 40 degrees. You can hardly hear the fans, they're not even spinning max. Obviously when you run the Cinebench, let's see what core utilization is. Let's see, it's not using all the cores. So it's showing 4600, but it's not using all the cores. It would do if I ran Cinebench. I don't think, shall I run Cinebench? Yeah, I could do, even though it's running. It's gonna be I'll pause that. Let's pause that. Otherwise it's gonna see how much it drops. Yeah, still there. It's dropped now to 800 megahertz. So we should get. It's got a lot of tabs open and programs. But we'll run Cinebench and see what it benchmarks. A Devil's Canyon. Right, and we want to look at the Asus. You can see the cores. And now we're going to run Cinebench. Let's see what we get. Yeah, let's watch all of these cores turbo up to maximum when the fans start. There we go. 4607. Just slightly over base clock. And there we're 100%, all the cores are running now. Fans are starting to spin up. Temperature should be rising. So you can see all the cores are at 100% now. So let's go back. Temperature, CPU temperature should rise, but look how cool that is. That's running every core at max out 4600 for Cinebench. I'm guessing we're gonna get under 2000 because it's got a lot of programs open. I don't know if that media encoder is fully stopped. Got a lot of programs open. Temperature 60 degrees only, and the fans aren't even maxing out yet. I think that goes to 1400. 61 degrees. So the i7-4790k obviously is unlocked. Intel's unlocked processor. One of the first Ks to be that done it's unlocking. And it's basically I'm not getting much of an incentive to upgrade to a new system. If I was going to get a new system, I'd spend a similar amount, £2,500. Probably go for something multi-core rather than single core max, something like a Ryzen 3950X, or stick with the i9-900k Intel. But there's I like the multi-cores. The what is it? I think it's 3950X is 16 core, no, 12 core, 24 thread. I'm sure, off memory. Let's run it. What's it got? Yeah, 2040. That is pretty good. It's got 2040. And that's with a lot of programs open, been on a while. And I've just paused the encoder. So it does perform well, and the core, and that's every core running at max for the benchmarker. Oh, it's still 100%. It's coming down now. Yeah, back to normal. Clock's gonna drop. So even though I'm contemplating a new system, basically what's the processing? Well, there will be a jump in processing power. You know, to 3950X, maybe 6 times. No, not 6 times. 3 times. I think it comes out 6,000 on. Around 6,000 on. Oh, there it is, Threadripper. That's 1950, so it'll be better than that. So it would get a good benchmark score. I think maybe 8,000. On face value that seems like a massive jump, but you got to remember not all the cores are utilized, you know, not fully, maybe on benchmarks but not in real usage. As you can see here, you got 4 cores and 8 threads, and only the first core is really being utilized and the second core, I presume it's core, thread, core, thread, core, thread, core, thread. That's what I'm presuming it is. So let's run the encoder again, resume, and we'll see what happens. Continue. And the CPU utilization will increase. Yeah, see, not using all the cores and threads. So that's the thing about getting a high core processor with multi threads. They're not all going to be utilized, only for something like benchmarking. So maybe i9-900k is good enough with its 8 core 16 thread. Maybe that's optimum and future proof for the next 5 years, but it's a toss up, isn't it? I don't really want to shift from Intel to AMD. The reason is because Intel processors and systems tend to run more reliable than AMD. That used to be the case. I don't know if it still is. I'm going to have to investigate the reliability of systems. I know AMD was less reliable, more prone to overclocking. This is going back 20 years. So I don't know if it's still the case. As you can see, it's not using all the threads, maxing out. So yeah, maybe 4 core 8 thread is now pushing it. 4 core definitely is now pushing it. That's why, you know, obviously you can get a system very cheap, maybe £600 on a i7-4790k with a decent graphics card, 32 gig RAM, DDR3. You know, you can probably pick it up for £600-700, I'm guessing. That's cheap, and they are good processors, the i7-4790k, and they're relatively easy to overclock. Like, I've had this running at 4.5% above its default setting of, you know, default is 100 times 44 and I've got it 100 times 46. Stable. I popped it up to 4700, but that's not stable, not on the cooler it's got. Main thing, it's reliable, stable, and I'm in no rush to upgrade. I'll see what other processors come out, how they actually perform under real life world conditions, because to tell you the truth, this performs absolutely fine. Maybe it's taking a long time to render this large file. It's 35-minute long. Probably end up being around 4 GB. So that's the only thing that obviously takes longer than a new processor would to render and encode. But in usage, with no lags, everything runs fine. Even with processor in the background, there's no lag at all. You will not notice any difference in usage, maybe in top-end games, but you will not notice any usage under Windows normal apps. You know, even something like Dreamweaver, any normal apps, maybe just the video programs, you will notice obviously a boost, because you save time in rendering and encoding. That's only the main thing. So I'm in no rush at the start of 2020 to get a new system, so I'm going to take my time to investigate my options, because I do know the importance of having fast single cores as well as having multiple cores, which is what the i7-4790k has and the i9-900k has. You don't want to be bamboozled by too many cores and threads if most of the work's done by only a couple of cores. Into the performance of the single cores, that matters. That'll probably matter more than the overall bench, because these overall benches are not Threadripper, they're not what you're going to experience. It's not 6670 is not 3 times the performance of this system. In use you would hardly notice the difference. That's because in single core I could run, oh, it's going to take ages if I run single core. But in single core it would probably beat, I'll see if there's any, I'll try and run it single core. Okay, so I've started running single core. It's probably going to take a while. And there we got 4600, and so it's sharing the load amongst CPUs. It's not just running one core maxing out, but it's simulating single core. That's what it's doing. It'll take it a while. And there you go, that's why a 4790k is still good in 2020. Look, performs better on single core than a Threadripper 1950 Xeon Pentium i7 Ryzen 7 i7, later processors, and the 4790k performs better than them on single core. 435. So when you're checking out the processors for your system, don't just get bamboozled by multi-cores. Look at how it performs in the single core, and this beats Threadripper 1950X, which I think is a 16 core processor. 16, I'm sure it is, it says it there. Yeah, 16 core, 32 thread, and old 4790k beats it. Like I say, most applications aren't going to use more than a couple of cores. Yeah, so the 4790 is still good in 2010. Yeah, that's my system. 2435 overclocked, 4.7. So there you go. 4790k Devil's Canyon is still good in 2020. So if you're thinking of buying a machine and can't afford a brand new one, consider an old 4790k. It could perform better than something, well, just as good or slightly better than something that costs twice as much as what you're going to pay second hand. I think you can get it for £600-700. That'd be a bargain. To get a similar spec new machine, probably be 1200, 1300 that performs as well, or maybe even worse if you get AMDs, because they don't seem to be very good on single cores. AMD processors, they might have a lot of cores, so good for multi-core applications. And here's how the 4790k stacks up to the current range of best processors on the market, as benchmarked on the Cinebench and Premiere Pro and Borderlands 3, including the current actual market price on Amazon, rather than the suggested retail price, which unfortunately you can't get for processors such as the 10980XE. Instead of say £900, it's coming in at 1,220. So the 4790k is currently £269 on Amazon. So it's right at the bottom, and its performance is likewise at the bottom. Of these, the best sub 500 processor has to be the Ryzen 9 3900X, that performs more than triple on multi-core and a good 20% faster on single core, as well as way beating the 4790k in terms of Premiere Pro encoding, as well as frames per second on Borderlands 3. So in actual fact, the 3900X is probably the bargain processor to base the system on in January 2020. I don't think you're going to get a better processor than that for a system in terms of price per performance. Then we have Intel's 1090-80XE, which is let down by its poor single core performance and its ridiculous price, $1,220. It's just not worth it. Look, you might as well just get a Ryzen 3900X or a Ryzen 3950X, which is the next one up. Performs better than a 10980XE. It's nearly 5 times the performance of a 4790k. Beats the 4790k on single core. Premiere Pro is improved as well, and 114 frames per second. Performs as good as the 3900X, though you pay more, £720. Whilst most Intel desktop PCs in the past 6 months will have been on the i9-900k, which is about 2.5 times more powerful than the 4790k on multi-core. However, in terms of processing power, in terms of encoding, its lack of multi-cores lets it down. So it's not that much of an improvement, but it is good for gaming. And it is relatively cheap, similarly priced to 3900X. So why get that when you can get the 390X, which is a lot better on multi-core? So it looks like the Ryzen 9 3950X based system is probably the best processor to get in terms of multi-core processing power to encode Premiere Pro with, or the 3900X. That's probably more future proof. However, if you got money to burn, you can pay $1,229 and get the Threadripper 3960X, which will hugely boost encoding. It's a significant difference between the 3950X. That's the power of the multi-cores. It's got 24, I think, 24 cores and 48 threads. Then you got 3970X, which I think is 32 cores, yeah, but you pay a ridiculous price for it. So I am gravitating towards either, I probably will be a 3950X processor, 720 or less. That's what I'm gravitating towards, due to its multi-core performance, significant, near 5 times the 4790k, whilst not so significant single core. But it will make a huge difference to gaming and encoding videos and such like, just the boost in the multi-core. And it's probably going to fall once the new 3990X start hitting the market in February. There'll probably be a price drop. This will probably be coming in around £600 then. And you never know, I might go for the 3960X if the price drops below 1,000, though I doubt it. So Intel is basically dead now. Can't compete, so I won't be going for an Intel system in my upgrade this year. It's most likely going to be a Ryzen 9 3950X, and I may make the leap to a 3960X. Time will tell. But the 4790k still stacks up well in terms of single core performance, though of course in terms of encoding it is left way behind due to only having 4 cores and 8 threads. There's no comparison between these, or definitely the 3960X. So it'll be at least a 3950X I'll be going for, and maybe, just maybe, 3960X. So one of these two.